we are here to talk about internships today. So I'm going to be introducing our speaker for today. This is Ted Foltyn, who is an instructor at UD and is also the Internship Coordinator for UD Horn Entrepreneurship Program. And if I said any of that wrong, Ted will correct me shortly.
Sounds great.
Before we dive too far in, I just want to remind everyone that even though this is on Zoom, I am watching Facebook. I'll be checking for questions and we will take those at the end. So feel free to chime in with any comments and questions you have, and I'll make sure that Ted sees them. I do want to tell a quick story about, because I have worked with some of Ted's college students and they have been absolutely amazing. But one of the reasons I was excited for this presentation is because we got this like self-starter, absolutely amazing student. Her name is Kelly. Is it still Landis or Anderson now?
Andresen. Yep.
Andresen. Okay, Kelly Anderson. She got married, changed her name. But if you ever have a chance to hire her, do it, because she's amazing. But anyway, so she came in and she already had all these skills and we would teach her new things and she'd pick it up right away. But I knew I didn't know how to manage. So it was really lucky that she had those skills to be able to self-manage. Not every college student's going to be able to do that. And so I was like, before we hire anybody else, I need to make sure I know what I'm doing. And this is also a question that someone else asked me, someone who works for a nonprofit, because they get a lot of students wanting to help them out, and then they don't actually know how to make use of them, how to manage them, and they kind of send them off into the world and sometimes don't hear back from them. So Ted's going to help us figure out how to not do that, how to get value, and also how to make sure that these students are having a good experience themselves. So I'm going to shut up now and let Ted take over.
Cool. All right, let me share my slides here. Thanks, Jen. I really appreciate it, and I'm very happy to speak to the group today. So internships are a great opportunity to bring value into your organization. And so what I want to highlight today are just some tips, as Jen said, to make it the most effective and impactful internship. This is a big TED Talk, okay? Since I'm Ted, I always give a TED Talk. My students always roll their eyes and say, that's really funny. But I'm really a business person who now teaches at the University of Delaware. So I spent over 25 years in the pharmaceutical business and medical devices at Johnson & Johnson. And then I had the good fortune to go back to my alma mater. I now teach it in the Horn Entrepreneurship area at the university. I teach a marketing class, a sales class, and a networking kind of a business career pathing. The point is that I get a chance to really know the students, and the students are your potential interns. So I think I can share some of their perspectives on things. Our internship program that I run is specifically for entrepreneurship majors. There are other interns available at the University of Delaware, of course, of all different marketing or finance or engineering and so forth. But I focus just on the ones that are the internship students. So I want to talk about what's a great internship look like, student expectations, how to give good, effective assignments, something that Jen already just kind of talked about. And then I want to talk about interviewing and how to identify great students for your business. So if you kind of take a step back, an internship is an opportunity to really do a little bit of matchmaking. Okay, so what about what your business does would be interesting to a 19, 20, 21-year-old? So you kind of think about it from their perspective. Just like you do in marketing, you think about what your customer is trying to learn or gain from using your product or your service. So a really good internship benefits you, clearly. You're the one who's paying them. Oh, we'll get there. And it helps them grow and contribute. So what's a great internship is going to be very different based upon each of your businesses. So let's kind of get a little bit further into that. So if you're looking for someone to do basic tasks, then there are students that are out there. A lot of, think about when you were in college in your freshman, sophomore, junior year, maybe your first summer you worked and you cut grass, or you were a lifeguard, and maybe you were a waiter or waitress and busboy or something, and you've never worked in an office before. Well, but they've been to college, but they've never really worked in an office. So for that student, just getting work experience in an office, the tasks can be simpler. Jen mentioned about Kelly. Kelly happened to be one of our students who had terrific job experience coming in. She had already worked in offices and so forth. We sent her over, she worked with Jen, and I know she took on sophisticated tasks right away. So what does that mean for you? There are students that are out there who can do the basic tasks and be very happy with those. They just want to work in an office and learn what your business does and figure out how to be a contributor and learn from you and so forth. There are other students who've already been through maybe a summer or semester, whatever, doing office work, and they might be able to take on a little bit more. Okay, so you have to kind of think about what's in it for both of you. Okay, so here are some examples that just brainstorming of what a good internship could possibly look like in your business. Okay, so it might be looking at what your competitors do and maybe whether you should be following or changing direction based upon what your competitors do. Okay, it's and organizing that information in a meaningful, action-oriented way. They might go out and run your social media. Figure out what's important to your audience, how often they should post things, what should be posted, what would be effective to drawing new customers or engaging customers. They might advise you on your website, new updates. When was the last time it was updated? How often does it need to be updated? I'm not talking about programming your website. That would be something that would kind of maybe be a skill over and above, but they could definitely give you input on how be acting like a customer, sitting there and going through it, and because you're really close probably to your website, they could come in and kind of say, who am I? Why would I go to your website? What do I get when I get there? And so forth. Another good internship would be, say, interacting with your customers via the phone or an email, if you're comfortable, depending on who your customer is and what their expectation is. But having a good, upbeat, positive, well-spoken college student might be a great thing for you to be able to give them some experience. Okay, flip it over on the not so good side. Think back to what I was talking about before. You want to try to match the level of skill that your student has to what job you're offering them. Okay, so doing things like, I've had people say, well, I want my student to go back. I got a lot of email that I haven't looked through in a while, and I got a backlog of all this stuff, and I just want them to read. Hire a good high school student. Okay, save yourself the trouble. Don't give that to a college student. Okay, whoops. Hold on. Let me go back. Okay. Just answering the phones, not a good idea, right? If it's as part of their job is to answer the phone 10, 15, 20% of the time. But if the calls happen to be with potential customers who are calling in or current customers, that could be something that could be spun into a sales type role. Okay, so just answering the phones, I don't think that's necessarily a good idea. All right, again, you could hire a well-spoken high school student to do that necessarily. Don't give them one big gigantic project only. Okay, give them some variety. Maybe you do have a big project and that's okay, but add to that. Give them some other things to work on that go beyond. Okay, new topic. Should you pay your students? Should you pay these interns? I will tell you that the internships that I work on, it's mandatory that they get paid. And that's kind of my theory, and same with Dan Freeman, directs the Horn Entrepreneurship. I only want the students doing really important jobs. If they are just doing busy work and it's not really worth a lot of money to you, and you're like, why should I have to pay them? So it's sort of like a bar. If you have to pay them, they have to be paid. In the old days, you could say, oh, well, we're just going to give them great experience and they should be happy with that. Frankly, that's like a one-off. You might have a student who can afford to work for free and really would benefit from it. I think they're really the exception today, maybe 10% of the students at the most, all right? Just some ballparks here. If a student has only finished their freshman year, pay them $10 an hour, all right? If they're going into a junior or senior year, then they have more skills and they've had more schoolwork and they've done other things before, you might pay them up to $20 an hour. Again, it's like the market, you get what you pay for. If you're only going to pay $12 an hour and the student's really good, like that Kelly that Jen talked about, Kelly should be making $20 an hour, and she is worth $20. You're not just paying her. She's really, really good. Okay. Other things to talk about is whether it's part-time or not. Students, you just have to ask them. Okay, if it's a summer job, maybe they already have an internship and they want to contribute and do two. Maybe it's during the semester and they have a decent course workload and they'll work for you part-time. So those are some other things to think about. But part-time is really fine with our students and for most students. Oh, let me go back. Sorry. What do I do when I get a call? Okay, let me go to the next one. All right, so how do you attract great candidates? Okay, so this is your opportunity, and write a great job description is going to get you potentially a great candidate. All right, so this is a sales opportunity. It's your job to write something up that's going to be interesting and engaging to the students. Sorry. All right, so 3 parts to me for a really great job, a great job description. First is talk about the highlights, what's really cool about your organization. Second, the tasks, the specific tasks you want them to complete, okay? And then the third is what experience and skills do you desire, all right? This is 1 page. I'm not talking pages and great detail, but I could share with you if you're really, really interested. I have some examples of some companies that I've worked with that write really good 1-page job descriptions. You also want to put on there part-time versus full-time, the number of hours you're looking for, whether it's remote or not, how much you're willing to pay. You could give a range here. You could say willing to pay between $12 and $18 an hour based upon experience. That helps the students just have an idea. Okay, let's keep going. Sorry about that. All right. So how do you manage and make the most out of working with your students? Give them clear direction. All of us, I think, want specifics. Okay, what exactly, when you're giving assignments to your students, give them that, they're used to, we call it at school, rubrics. A rubric is how do I get graded and how am I going to be evaluated? Same thing here. What does really good look like? What are you expecting from your student? Are you looking for how much depth? Are you looking for it to be a PowerPoint presentation? Do you just want ideas jotted down into a Word document? But giving them clear direction is very, very helpful. Way important is to give them a short-term deadline, not just the final deadline. Learned this when I started teaching. Students would, they had 8 weeks to work on an assignment. And I would check in on like week 7 or 8 into an 8-week assignment. And they hadn't even started yet, or they just were getting going. So next semester, I said 4 weeks in, I want to see what kind of a draft you have. And the quality definitely raised. Same thing with you. Don't give them an assignment 3 weeks out and wait until 3 weeks to see where they are. Get a draft, see where they stand. Give multiple assignments so that they can work on one and then work on some other things if they're done or they just need a break, or if they're looking for stuff to do. You could have them go explore. You could have them go and explore podcasts about your industry. They could explore best practices online. Give them somebody else to talk to. I'm not sure if it's just a sole proprietor, you don't have other people, but if you have someone else in your organization that they could speak to and learn questions and ask dumb questions, make sure that you give them that opportunity to do that. Okay, a couple more things. This is a key question, especially people working remotely, which is, how do I know that they're working? And what can I hold them accountable to? So if you give them an assignment and you say, in 2 weeks, I want you to analyze this thing and I want you to make a chart of what's different between what somebody else is doing and what I could be doing and so forth. Do you care when they get it done? Like, I don't care when my students study, as long as they get a good grade. Same thing with you. If you have work for them to do, let them do it whenever they want. However, there are times that you should hold them very accountable, and that would be when they should join a call. Set calls, they got to be ready, videos on, ready to go. You might also say, hey, listen, I'd like you to work on Monday, Wednesday, Friday. I'd like to be able to call you on Monday afternoons. I'm not sure I will, but I'd like you to be available. And so they should hold time that you can call them and they will be there and ready to speak with you. Okay. And then other times you might just say, if other than on Monday afternoons and maybe Tuesday mornings or whatever, but be clear as to what your expectations are. Get them to present frequently, okay? Give them feedback, all right? Oral feedback, one-on-one, you did this well, you did this not so well. Give them depth, like what did you do well? Did they speak well? Did they have enthusiasm? Did they seem interested in their topic? But having them present back to you would be a great benefit to them. Okay, I have them do it in class. You having them do it in a work situation would be terrific. Okay, at summer's end, maybe you have them make a formal presentation, which is what they worked on and what they learned. That's a neat thing. Some companies do that. Some do that because they might want to hire that student and they kind of use it as a type of an interview. But ask them for feedback. It's tough, but what they say you might learn. It's a give and take. You give them feedback on things that they could do. You might ask them, hey, how could the internship be better? Students will, a very good student, a confident student will be able to say to you, hey, I think you could, I was a little stuck here and I got better. You got better. I learned as I went. So those are some things. All right, a couple more best practices. I like having your students set some goals. And those goals could be, what do they want to learn? What skills are they trying to grow? Maybe they want to try something they've never done before. They want to take some risks. Ask them those questions. And frankly, most students, when I went into my internships or co-op program when I was in college, I was never asked this. But when I asked them before the semester or before the summer, they got very reflective. They're like, you know what? I think this is a chance for me to try something new that I hadn't tried before. It just raises the bar. It challenges them, and a challenged intern would be a great intern. Help them learn your business from like the industry down. So if I said to one of your students, tell me about your internship, what did you do there? They should be able to start at a pretty high level and be able to boil it down to, this is where the industry was, this is the company that I worked for, here's who their competitors were, and this is what we did different. These were the ways that we tried to bring value to the marketplace. This is the way we tried to get customers. Okay, it would be great if your students could benefit from that. Because what's going to happen is, depending on where they are, next job, they go out and interview, somebody's going to say, hey, tell me about that job you had at your company, XYZ. And I really will ask those students, be able to dig in, show the depth of what you learned. You just didn't do one little piece the whole summer, I hope. I hope you had the opportunity to learn beyond just the one small thing. Excuse me. Okay, a couple more slides and we'll, all right. Zoom, students should be way comfortable with Zoom. We taught half of this spring semester with Zoom. They were locked in their houses, they're engaged, they're very comfortable. In fact, I think I had better class participation on Zoom than I did in person. Frankly, they're stuck at home often and they just love to be able to contribute, okay? So you might even say, what did you find effective using Zoom? They might be more effective at it than you. Why not ask them, okay? But they should, I tell them, be ready in front of the video, that they should dress nicely. If they can, get into a space that looks like it's not, in the middle of the kitchen with mom and dad going around and the dog barking or whatever. That might be the only area they have. Might be. If not, can you get into a basement or can you get into your bedroom or wherever that is a quiet place? If you have happy hours or coffee time, it might be nice to be able to socialize with them, get to know them beyond just the work that you're asking them to do. That'll make it just like any other time. Why do you have a happy hour? It's just to go past what the work is. A couple of last things. Here's what the things that I shared with the students. And I said, this is what the companies are expecting from you. Okay, so I said, most employers want these things. Strong verbal written communications. Okay, you're not necessarily looking for an expert in anything. Okay, but you do want some other things. One is be able to communicate well. Second is enthusiasm and a smile and a desire to work and learn. Okay, your ability to get along with people who are older than you. right? If you're 21 years old, you might be a junior in college, but most of the people you're going to work with are going to be older than you. That's a skill. That's something, that's a maturity level that you're trying to do. Being able to ask questions, listen well, all right? Those are things that I tell the students they need to do. Being following up, being proactive. If you don't understand your assignment, ask. Don't just go off and start doing things. Like, have the level of maturity to say, I don't know what the heck you meant that you wanted me to do. Right? That's a great thing that you can provide for them. This thing about a 9 a.m. Zoom meeting, I tease my students and I say, so I had a call with about 10, 15 students and I said, what time should you join a 9 o'clock Zoom call? And I just sat there and I said, maybe it depends on how late you were out the night before. No. Around 9 o'clock? No. 9 o'clock? No. I said 5 of. Get on the call early. Put your video on. Maybe the boss is sitting there and she's going to want to talk to you. And you will grow as a person. You'll learn how to make small talk with an adult. You'll build an interaction with them and so forth. So, if your students are late for a meeting, tell them, you're late. I expect you to be here on time. Don't let that slide. If they look like they're on their phone while you're talking to them, say, can I have your attention here? Okay. Raise that bar. Don't accept the student to not give you 100% attention. Okay. You're paying them. All right. In my classroom, I'm giving them a grade. I'm not paying them, of course, but if my student is not engaged and I call on them and they weren't paying attention, I'm like, why weren't you paying attention? I said, your employer is going to expect you to pay attention. So you guys can reinforce that. That would be awesome. Okay. Interview. Jen asked me a couple things on interviewing. All right. One slide on that. You really want a good match between what you're looking for. So you have to sit and think, what skills am I looking for? And you need to be pretty specific about that. Don't just settle for somebody. That's a bad thing for you and the student, okay? Being nice and hiring somebody because they seem like they're really friendly and so forth. No, it's nice to be friends and give them feedback, but don't hire people for that reason. The way I was taught was kind of this STAR technique. And it was what a Johnson, we got trained for days, literally on this, okay? And you don't need to be trained for days, but it got to a heart of one thing. And STAR is here, a situation, task, action, result. What it's trying to get you to do is get examples. A student says, oh, I'm really good at organization skills. I'm really good. And you go, oh, that's great. No, that doesn't mean anything. You say, give me an example where you needed to use organization skills. Oh, I can't think of one. That's okay, take your time. Maybe something that you needed to organize. So you're going into that. What's the situation? What were you supposed to organize? What did you do? And what was the result of what you did? That kind of a pattern is something that is really helpful. I mean, I know when I get interviewed that way, it's like, ooh, like I'm like, it's holding me accountable. It's not just saying, oh yeah, I'm great at writing and I'm great at this. Ask them for some examples. If you want somebody to post for you or to write press releases or something like that, get examples of their writing skills. All right. So that way you're not hiring somebody and being disappointed when they don't do it. So go back to the top of this slide. Find out what skills you want and jot those down. And when you interview for them, you want to get examples and raise your comfort that these students are very analytical. What have they analyzed? Let them teach you or tell you what they specifically did from an analysis point of view, and have you be excited by what they've said, okay? If they're very well spoken or whatever, that'll pretty much come across in an interview, but make sure the skills that you want are demonstrated with examples during the interview. Okay, those were the topics that I had. Jen's gonna open up for some questions. If you're looking for an intern, a college-based intern, I'd be happy to help you, okay? In the fall, you might want somebody to work starting in September. 5 hours a week, 10 hours a week, I can help you find some of those students, okay? I have examples of job descriptions. If you are looking to hire somebody, I could share with you maybe the one at TAP or whatever. But I hope this was helpful. I also am putting my email down here at the University of Delaware. If you have a follow-up question or whatever, I'd be happy to. And Jen, I'll turn it back to you if there are any other questions now.
Okay. Thank you so much, Ted. That was fantastic. And somehow, despite having talked to you twice already, there were still new things that came up that I was like, huh, that's good to know. Okay, so going through the comments on Facebook, people liked your TED Talk joke. That was a big hit. And then
that's just having the right name. That wasn't even like, you know, that's just,
yeah.
God bless my parents called me Ted. I could play up that silly thing.
You saw the opportunity and you took it.
There you go.
Okay, so Jane has a question. Actually, I think this is more, she's asking for validation, but we'll see. So she says, we have an unpaid internship program where it's more hands-on training, but we max the amount of hours in which they work. Then if we dig them, if we like them, and we work well together, they become a paid freelancer, unless it's a high school work program where it's paid. So I guess she wants to know if that's an okay way of doing it, or
if it's worked for Jane and it seems fine, then keep doing it. If you're getting the kind of quality that you're looking for in candidates, that's great. I think good for you. What I'm suggesting is if you're looking for a certain skill or a certain level of ability, that you're likely not going to get that, a pretty high level, by just saying, oh, well, we'll just give you really good job experience. That often doesn't work. But if it's working for you and the students like your business or like the area of industry, you might be able to get away with having them be unpaid for a month or 6 weeks or whatever. And it's kind of a test out each other, with the carrot being, hey, if this really works, we'd love to hire you full time. We just kind of do a test. I think that's fine. And if it's been working, then keep doing that.
Yeah, and just from what I know, I guess, of each scenario, Jane, I don't know if your interns have had previous internships, but the candidates that we got when I was working at TAP, a lot of them had 3 internships already on their resume. So like, they don't need more unpaid work. They've already done that. So I think that might be a crucial difference too.
Yeah.
Jane also asked if it's for college credit. Does that make a difference to whether it should be paid?
No, the students are required to do some sort of work-related internship, and they get 3 credits for doing that. So it's not, it's sort of irrelevant, because the students need an internship of some sort. It's X number of hours a week, and they can then write up a paper on it and they get 1 credit, and it's a requirement. So I wouldn't use that as the reason that they should come work for you, because they can get it with any job experience that they have. Back in the old days, you could create a 3-credit class around that, and the University of Delaware just doesn't do that anymore. They just make this 1-credit class. I don't know if that answers the question, but the old thing of just giving out college credits and that being a big benefit is not as valuable to the students as, say, maybe it used to be.
Yeah. Yeah. In hindsight, I needed an internship to graduate, and I took one that wasn't even in graphic design. It was just like any old employer that would give me, and like, I was like, haha, I'm cheating the system. And now as an adult, I'm like, that was a waste of an opportunity. I could have gotten placed somewhere that would have actually helped me.
Right. Right.
Okay. Another question. This is from Kim Wells. Communication styles. Should we expect students to conform to ours, or should we ask them for their preferred communication method?
Communication style or method? I'm curious. What does that mean?
I think she's meaning like email versus Slack versus phone calls, but she can clarify if.
No, it's what your organization wants. You're the one who's the employer. Let them, conform with what you are expecting. For example, if when they present back to you their information, you can ask them, say, why don't you make like a 5-slide PowerPoint and present that back to me? Every college student should be able to do something like that. If you just want it written up on some Google Doc that's a shared document, and then you just want them to put their input, they should be able to do that as well. So just ask them, but no, you dictate, so to speak, the format and the style that you want them to use.
I think you already kind of touched on this, but I was curious about if any of your advice would be different for nonprofits versus businesses.
So, great question. We at the University of Delaware have a major that's for nonprofit entrepreneurship. So it's like you're an entrepreneur major, but your specialty or your focus is on nonprofits. And many of those students might work for free. Okay, so they're more likely to say, hey, I realize the company doesn't have much funding, whether it's state funded or county funded or religious organization, whatever it is. But promoting it goes to that job description. You can recruit probably a very good student who wants to work in a nonprofit. That's a benefit to them. That's kind of like their need. If you go back to what they want and are looking for and what you offer, absolutely, there are a lot of nonprofits that hire our students and students who want to work in nonprofits. There's a good match there, a very good match.
Yeah.
But promote it as a nonprofit. That's like a benefit to those students. To others, they're like, I don't really want to work for a nonprofit. And others will say, I want to work for a nonprofit. It all goes by, different interests.
Yeah, there's a lot of feel goods there too. Like, I'm helping save the world instead of this is just an internship.
Absolutely.
I think we're caught up on questions.
Okay.
So, but people said, yes, they want job description samples.
Okay.
I think people want all the resources you're willing to offer. And did you say the slides too would be able
Sure.
to?
I'll share them with you, and then you can share them with the others.
Yeah, I'll make this all available in the group. Okay, and then I will also, once we finish up here, that information you saw on Ted's slide for how to get in touch with him, I'll post that in the comments as well. So you guys can definitely reach out if you think that this is a good fit and that you want an intern for your organization. Like, please feel free. Ted had told me that now is actually a really great time, not specifically now for semester-wise, but just because of COVID and quarantine and a lot of job uncertainty. So there might be more students available than there normally are. So you might get one now that you wouldn't have gotten before. Absolutely.
I have a couple of students right now who are even still looking for this summer. There's 2 or 3, but they had internships that just got canceled right in the middle, like in June, which is just so awful. So anyway, yes, Jen, absolutely. I have students right now, if people are interested right now. If it happens to be into the fall or later on, get in touch with me. I'll have even more students then. So great. It was nice to speak with you. Happy to speak with the group, and hopefully they found some interesting comments in my TED Talk.
Yeah. Oh, and then I guess last thing, guys, this video will stay up in the group, so you'll be able to rewatch it if you just came in late or you missed some of it. And if you do have questions that we didn't get to, feel free to drop them in there and tag me, let me know, and then I will send anything on to Ted that you don't see. Ted is not on Facebook, if you can believe that.
Instagram,
yeah,
but not on Facebook.
Yeah.
Sorry.
So, but I'll make sure that he sees any other follow-up questions, and you have his email so you can get in touch directly too. So thank you everyone for participating, and thank you, Ted, so much for giving us this helpful information. And I bet you we're going to see a bunch of new businesses getting their first intern.
Awesome. I hope so. All right, great. Thanks, Jen. Thanks, everybody. Take care.